Hi friends, welcome to our YouTube channel Naraj Academy. The main aim of this lecture is to discuss about the mathematics previous year questions of PSUs in a very detailed manner. And if you like the content of our channel, then please do like, share and subscribe our YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon button. So whenever we upload a new video, the direct notifications comes on mobile. If any improvements needed in our lectures, then please do comment in the comment section. We will definitely include all those improvements in the coming lectures. Please do watch all our videos on the YouTube itself so that our channel can reach to more number of students. I hope you will do it. So let's get started. So now we are going to solve the 61 question. See the question here. Consider the linear constant coefficient first order differential equation, which is dy by dt plus a into y is equal to x. Then the following is generally true. So they are given the constant coefficient differential equation, the first order, and then out of these four options, which is the true, we need to figure out. So option C, which is the solution is proportional to input x of t for the zero initial condition. So now we'll discuss the exact solution of this question. So in the question they are given dy by dt plus a into y of t is equal to x of t. So based on here, suppose here I am going to apply the Laplace transform on the both sides, then I am going to get s into y of s minus y of 0 plus a into y of s is equal to x of s. But now I am going to assume the initial conditions are 0. If I am going to assume the initial conditions are 0, then we can say that here this will become 0. So therefore now I am going to assume the initial condition is 0. So this term we are going to get 0. So if you take y of s as a common, we are going to get s plus a into is equal to x of s. So y of s is equal to x of s by s plus a. So if I take the inverse Laplace transform, then I am going to get y of t is equal to e to the power of minus at convolution of the x of t. So we can say that y of t is equal to e to the power of minus at convolution of x of t. So this is called as the output is a convolution of e to the power of minus at and x of t. Let me assume the impulse response is e to the power of minus at and the input is x of t and the output is y of t. So we can say that whenever the initial conditions are 0, the output is proportional to the input. So the output is proportional to the input whenever the initial conditions are 0. So this is the correct solution of this question. So now we are going to solve the 62nd question. See the question here. The solution of d square plus 16 into y is equal to cos 4x. So here for this differential equation we have to find what is the solution y we need to figure out. So out of these four options, option B is the correct solution of this question. So let's solve this numerical. So this is the differential equation they have given. So for this one we have to find what is the general solution we need to figure out. So always the general solution is the summation of the complementary solution plus the particular integral solution. So the complementary solution, the way to figure out the complementary solution is we have to assume the input is 0. So when the input is 0, then this overall value is equal to 0. So d square plus 16 is equal to 0. So d square is equal to minus 16. So if you want to do d is equal to plus or minus 4i. So for the function a plus or minus ib root, the solution is equal to e to the power of ax into a cos bx plus b sin bx. So by using this formula, we have made this equation, which is y complementary solution is equal to a into cos 4x plus b into sin 4x, because a is equal to 0 and b is equal to 4. So we got the value of the complementary solution. So now we have to find what is the particular solution, which is called as the, for a particular input, what is the value of the solution we are going to figure out. So this is the input cos 4x. So I want the only value of y. So therefore I am going to take this part to the denominator. So I am going to get cos 4x by d square plus 16. But here, whenever the input is a function of cos ax, whenever the input is a function of cos ax plus some theta, then definitely we can say d square, we have to replace d square by minus a square. So we have to replace d square by minus a square. Whether it is a sine or cos, we have to go for this process. So here a is equal to 4. So minus of 4 square is minus 16. So if you substitute d square is equal to minus 16, the denominator part is 0. Then we have to go for the first differentiation, or we can say that then we have to go for the x. We have to take the another part x and go for the again derivative of this denominator. So if you go for the derivative of this denominator, which you are going to get 2d plus 0, which is 2d. So 2 is a constant value. I am taking outside the bracket, which I am going to get x by 2 into, here I am going to get 1 by d. So this is 1 by d of cos 4x. Then I am going to multiply and divide by d. Again we are going to get d by d square. But d square is equal to minus 16. So I am taking here 2 into minus 16 is minus 32. So x by minus 32 into, so I am going to take this as outside. Then I am going to get minus d into d square. So now d is called as a derivative. So derivative of cos 4x is nothing but minus sin 4x into 4. So minus minus cancels and 4 ones are 4 8s are. So finally you are going to get x by 8 into sin 4x. So this is a particular solution. So we know the complementary solution and also particular solution. So now we have to go for the addition of these two things, then only we can get the overall solution. So overall solution is equal to summation of the complementary solution plus the particular solution, which is a into cos 4x plus b into sin 4x plus x by 8 into sin 4x is the correct solution of this question. So now we are going to solve the 63rd question. See the question here. Which of the following is not an eigenvector of the matrix? So for this matrix, which of them out of these four options, which is not an eigenvector, we need to figure out. So out of the four options, option D is not an eigenvector of this matrix. So now let us solve this numerical. So in the question they are given this is the matrix. For this matrix, out of these four options, which is not an eigenvector, we need to figure out. So basically, whenever Ax is equal to lambda into x, if you multiply a matrix A by some vector, then if you are going to get a resultant vector which is some number, some number into x, this number is called as the eigenvalue and this is eigenvector. If any matrix satisfying this condition, then we say that is called as a eigenvector. Or we can say that we have to check out of this which one is going to satisfy this condition and which one is not going to satisfy, that is called as a not an eigenvector. So we will do this process for each and every option. Let me take the first option, which is x is equal to 1 0 minus 1. See, A is this matrix and x is this matrix. So if you do the multiplication of these two matrices, we are going to get minus 2 0 0. If you take minus 2 as a common, we are going to get minus 2 into 1 0 minus 1. So Ax is equal to lambda x, A into x is equal to lambda into x. So we got the same vector, same matrix we are going to get. So we can say that where minus 2 is called as the eigenvalue of the eigenvector of this one. So this is called as the eigenvector. So let me check the option B. But x is equal to minus 3 0 3. Same A into x is equal to, if you do the product of A into x, we are going to get 6 0 minus 6. So if you take minus 2 as a common, we are going to get minus 3 0 and 3. So you can same thing, same we have got Ax is equal to lambda into x, same vector we have got, which is a minus 2. So minus 2 is the eigenvalue of the eigenvector of minus 3 0 3. So this is also an eigenvector of the matrix. So now we will proceed for the option C and option D also. So now we are going to check for the option C and option D. Option C matrix is 3 0 minus 3. So A into x is equal to, if you do the product of these two vectors, we are going to get minus 6 0 and 6. So if you take minus 2 as a common, then I am going to get 3 0 and minus 3. So Ax is equal to lambda into x. So x is same. So minus 2 is the eigenvalue of this eigenvector. So this is also an eigenvector of the matrix because this condition is satisfied. So take the option D here 1 0 1. So A into x, if you do the product of these two vectors, we are going to get 4 2 4. But Ax is equal to lambda into x. So therefore here we have to go for the scalar multiple of that matrix. Means you have to write this matrix in terms of the scalar of this matrix. But you can see this second part is 0, but it is 2. So you can't write a 0 value in terms of non-zero. So therefore no matter what are the things you do, you can't get a value of 0 from 2. So therefore this is not a eigenvector. So therefore this is not satisfied by this last vector. So therefore this is not an eigenvector, but the remaining three are belong to the eigenvector of the matrix. So this is the correct solution of this question. So now we are going to solve the 64th question. See the question here. Integration of mod of z plus 1 is equal to 2 z square by 4 minus z square dz. Means we have to do the integration over this path, which is mod of z plus 1 is equal to 2. So this is the closed path integral on this curve we need to figure out. So what is the value of this integration we need to figure out over this closed path. So out of the four options, option B 2 pi I is the correct solution of this question. So let's solve this numerical. See in the question they are given that here we have to find what is the integration of the z square by 4 minus z square around the closed curve, or I can say a closed contour of mod of z plus 2 is equal to 2. So basically here this is basically a z plane. So therefore z plane means it's basically a complex number. So z is equal to x plus iy. So I substitute z is equal to x plus iy, we are going to get mod of x plus iy plus 1. I can write the real part and the complex part together, x plus 1 plus iy. So take the under root over real part whole square plus complex part whole square. So under root over x plus 1 whole square plus y square is equal to take the square on both sides, we are going to get x plus 1 whole square plus y square is equal to 2 square. So this is the equation of a circle with center minus 1 comma 0 and radius is equal to 2. So based on this, we are going to plot the graph. So center is equal to minus 1 comma 0 with a radius of 2. Then we are going to get the endpoints as minus 3 comma 0 and 1 comma 0. So now here the function here f of z, this is the function f of z, which is z square by 4 minus z square. I can write 4 as 2 square. So therefore a square minus b square is equal to a plus b into a minus b. So 2 plus z into 2 minus z. If I take minus as a common here, I am going to get minus z square by 2 plus z into z plus 2 into z minus 2. So now we have to find what is the singular points. Singular points means at those points the function is not defined, means it is going to give you a infinite value. So for any function f of z, if you substitute f of z is equal to z naught, at these points we are going to get infinity, then this point z naught is called as a singular point. So here if you take z is equal to minus 2, then this value is equal to 0, anything by 0 is again infinity. So therefore z is equal to minus 2 is said to be singular point. Similarly, if you substitute z is equal to 2, this term is 0, and if you substitute overall value will be equal to infinity. So this is also a singular point. But minus 2 is nothing but here this is a minus 2 comma 0, which is inside the contour, whereas plus 2 comma 0 which is outside the contour. So we can say that minus 2 comma 0 is inside and plus 2 comma 0 is outside the contour. So now we have to find what is the overall integration. So the closed curve integral of the f of z into dz is equal to 2 pi I into sum of residues. This is called as a residue theorem. Means we have to take only those residues when these singular points are inside that curve or inside that contour, whereas this is outside the contour, so you don't have to take this one. So only those things which are present inside the contour only we have to consider. So this is minus 2 is inside. So now we have to find, because of this singular point, what is the residue we need to figure out. So the residue is equal to limit z tends to minus 2 into z minus of a into f of z. So z plus 2 into f of z is this function, takes the same as this one. So z plus 2 cancels. If you substitute z is equal to minus 2 in this function, we are going to get finally 1. So there is only one point which is inside the contour, means only one residue you are going to get. If there are more than one point inside the contour, then you have to go for the summation of the residues. But we have only one value, so keep it here 1. So 2 pi I into 1 is equal to 2 pi I. So therefore this is the correct solution of this question. Means only those points we need to take which are inside this contour but not the outside points. So this is the way that you need to remember this basic formula. This basic formula is called as a residue theorem in order to solve these questions. So this is the correct solution of this question, which is the answer is equal to 2 pi I. So now we are going to solve the 65th question. See the question here. The area of the region that lies inside the cardioid, which is r is equal to 1 plus cos theta, and outside the circle r is equal to 1. So we have to find what is the area which is bounded between the r is equal to 1 plus cos theta and r is equal to 1. Means we can say the area which is lying outside this cardioid and which is we can say which is outside the circle and inside the cardioid we need to figure out. So these four options. Option C, pi by 4 plus 2 is the correct solution of this question. So let's solve this numerical. So in the question they are given two curves in the polar format. So now we have to draw these graphs and then we have to find what is the area between them. So here r is equal to 1. R is equal to 1 means I can write in terms of polar format, which is 1 at an angle of theta. From 0 degree to 2 pi degree, its value is always equal to 1. So we are going to get a circle. So therefore, if we are going to draw this one, we are going to get a circle in terms of polar format. Means the radius is 1 comma 0. Here it is 0 comma 1, and here minus 1 comma 0, and here 0 comma minus 1. So from theta is equal to 0 to 2 pi degree, its value is a constant value which is equal to 1. So we are going to get a circle in the polar format. Suppose r is equal to 1 plus cos theta, then what is the graph in the polar format we are going to see? See, the theta is going to change from 0 degree to 2 pi degree. So when theta is equal to 0, if you substitute here theta is equal to 0, we are going to get r is equal to 2. So now the polar format means the radius and also angle. So 2 at an angle of 0 degree. So 2 at an angle of 0 degree means here you are going to get 2 at an angle of 0 degree. So this is 2 at an angle of 0. So therefore this is the length and this is the angle. So 2 at an angle of 0. This point you are going to get. And here When theta is equal to pi by 2, if you substitute here, we are going to get r is equal to 1, means 1 at an angle of pi by 2. So 1 at an angle of pi by 2 means you are going to get the length is 1 and the angle is pi by 2. Similarly, if theta is equal to pi, if you substitute theta is equal to pi in this expression, we are going to get r is equal to 0, means 0 at an angle of minus pi. Means if you increase the value of angle, we are going to get finally r is equal to 0, means this point you are going to get. And similarly, here if you substitute theta is equal to 3 pi by 2, then what you are going to get is basically here r is equal to, if you substitute here theta is equal to 3 pi by 2, you are going to get r is equal to 1, means 1 at an angle of 3 by 2. So 1 at an angle of 3 by 2 means this is pi by 2 and pi by 2, which is 3 pi by 2. So you are going to get this point. Again, if you substitute theta is equal to 2 pi, you are going to get here r is equal to 2. So 2 at an angle of 2 pi you are going to get, means again same point. So if you draw all this, if you draw the locus of all these points, you are going to get like this. As the theta increases, the radius decreases, and the radius decreases, and the radius decreases, and finally becomes 0. Again the radius decreases, or you can say it will be increasing in this manner. See, from 2 to 0 the radius was decreased, again it is increasing from pi. So the radius was increasing, again it is increasing, again we can say this is increasing in this format, and finally it is become like this. So like this it is going to become. So this is the thing in the question. So this is the diagram of r is equal to 1, and this is the diagram of r is equal to 1 plus cos theta. From 0 to pi, we can see the radius was decreases. From pi to 2 pi, the radius was increasing. So it is a symmetric graph with respect to x-axis. So in the question they are asking what is the area bounded between the outside the circle and inside this r is equal to 1 plus cos theta, means this is the area. So this is the area we need to figure out. So this is the area we need to figure out. This is the area which is outside the circle and inside this carbide, which is r is equal to 1 plus cos theta. So this value we need to figure out. So you can see clearly here the value is theta is equal to 0 degree, but here theta is equal to pi by 2. So theta is changing from 0 degree to pi by 2, as it is a symmetric one. So if you find the area from theta is equal to 0 to pi by 2, go for the twice, we can get the area behind this also. So therefore theta is varying from 0 degree to pi by 2 to find the area above this x-axis. So therefore now, and if you want to know what is just in a cylindrical coordinate system, what is this axis? So this is called as a dr, and this is r d theta. So therefore if you want area, which is small area is equal to r dr into r d theta, which is equal to r dr into d theta. So therefore now if you want to know what is the area, you have to go for the integration from r is equal to 1, this is r is equal to 1, and this is r is equal to 1 plus cos theta, and theta is varying from 0 degree to pi by 2. So theta is equal to 0 degree to pi by 2, and this is a small amount of area, which is r into dr into d theta. But we are going to get only area above this one, but we need below also, so go for twice. So we are going to get the overall area because it is a symmetric with respect to x-axis. So r is equal to 1 to r is equal to r plus 1 plus cos theta, and here theta is varying from 0 degree to pi by 2. So this is the way, this is the value we need to figure out now. So we are going to solve this integration to get the actual solution. So now the area is equal to 2 times of integration of theta is equal to 0 to pi by 2, integration of r is equal to 1 to r is equal to 1 plus cos theta into r dr d theta. So now here, now I am going to the integration with respect to r. So therefore it is going to become r square by 2. Substitute the upper limit and the lower limit, which is r is equal to 1 plus cos theta and r is equal to 1. So if I take half is outside, then these 2 and halves are going to get cancels. So substitute the upper limit minus lower limit, which is 1 plus cos theta whole square minus 1 square into d theta. So if you solve this expression, finally we are going to get cos square theta plus 2 cos theta into d theta with the integration of theta is equal to 0 to pi by 2. See now, see cos 2 theta is equal to 2 cos square theta minus 1. So cos square theta is equal to cos 2 theta plus 1 by 2. So in place of cos square theta, I am going to write cos 2 theta plus 1 by 2. So here I am going to get cos 2 theta plus 1 by 2 plus 2 cos theta into d theta. So now we have to do the simplification of this one. Up to here we got the integration. So further we have to do the simplification, which is here if I take here half outside, integration of 1 is a theta, integration of cos 2 theta is sin 2 theta by 2 plus integration of 2 cos theta is 2 sin theta. So we have to substitute the limits, lower limit and upper limit. If I take half inside, I am going to get theta by 2 plus sine 2 theta by 4, and same thing I have written, go for the limit substitution, upper limit minus lower limit. If I substitute the upper limit, I am going to get pi by 4 plus here sine 2 into pi by 2 is sine pi is 0 plus here sine pi by 2 is 1, so 1 into 2 is again 2 minus of, substitute the lower limit, this value is equal to 0, sine 2 into 0 is again 0, sine 0 is again 0, again sine 0 is 0, so overall value is equal to 0. So pi by 4 plus 2 minus 0, which is pi by 4 plus 2. So this is the area which is bounded outside the circle and is inside the curve band, which is equal to pi by 4 plus 2 is the correct solution of this question. So now we are going to solve the sixth question. See the question here, which of the following function have a jump discontinuity at x is equal to 0. So out of these functions, which function is going to have a jump discontinuity at x is equal to 0, we need to figure out. So out of these 4 options, option D, none of the above, means all these functions are not going to have the jump discontinuity. So now we are going to solve this question in a very detailed manner. So option D is the correct solution of this question. So let's solve this numerical. See, let me tell you a small concept here. See, these are the 3 graphs. See, at a point A, the function is continuous, means the limit is defined at each and every point. But here, for this graph, you can see clearly the function is discontinuous. The function is discontinuous, but the limit is going to exist at point A. So even the function is discontinuous, but still the limit is going to exist at point A, because the right hand limit is equal to left hand limit. So therefore we can say even the function is discontinuous, the limit is going to get exist. But here the function is discontinuous and also the limit is also not going to exist at point A, because the left hand limit is not equal to the right hand limit. So because of this reason we can say that here it's a limit, the limit is going to get exist, but here it is a discontinuous, and the limit is also going to get exist. But here the limit is not going to exist and it is also equal to discontinuous. So therefore we can say if the limit is not going to get exist at any point, then we say it is a jump discontinuity is going to present. So if the limit is not going to present, it means if the limit is absent at a particular point A, it indicates that there is a jump in the graph. There is a jump in the graph, means it is called as a jump discontinuity. See, whenever the limit is not going to exist at any point, then we say that simply there is a jump, or we can say discontinuity or jump discontinuity is going to present in that at that point A. So therefore if the right hand limit is not equal to left hand limit, if the right hand limit is not equal to left hand limit, then only we can say there is a jump discontinuity, then only there is a jump discontinuity. So limit is not going to exist at that point. So whenever the right hand limit is not equal to left hand limit, then only we can say that yes, there is a jump in that graph at that point. So therefore jump discontinuity and also limit is not going to get exist. So right hand limit we are going to get some value, and the right hand limit and the left hand limit also we are going to get some value, but these both are not equal at that point. So therefore limit is not going to exist, and also we can say there is a jump in the graph at that point. So we can say it's a jump discontinuity. So whenever the right hand limit is not equal to left hand limit at a particular point, means there is a jump in the graph at that particular point. So therefore this is called as a jump discontinuity, or limit is not going to exist at that point. So now based on this concept, now we are going to solve for each and every question. At point x is equal to 0, we are going to check is there any jump discontinuity is present or not in each and every option we are going to check. The first option, which is g of x is equal to logarithm with a base x of mod x. So mod x means always positive. So this is x and y. So here x and y, if you take x as a positive or negative, if you take x as a positive or negative, always we are going to get a positive result. Always we are going to get a positive result. But when x is equal to 0, we are going to get, means logarithm of 0 is nothing but e to the power of minus infinity, or simply we can say here then we are going to get a minus infinity. Then only we are going to get log 0 is nearly equal to minus infinity. So therefore here you are going to get minus infinity. So therefore here this is the graph of g of x. So you can see clearly at a 0 plus it is going to have some value, and 0 minus also it is going to have the same value, because it is a positive graph. So always positive. So both are equal. So therefore we can say that yes, the limit the limit is going to get exist, but limit is going to exist means there is no jump discontinuous. So therefore we can say the right hand limit is equal to left hand limit. So no jump discontinuity. So no jump discontinuity. See, the function is discontinuous, but there is no jump discontinuity means there is no sudden change. So we can say that no jump discontinuity is present at x is equal to 0 for this graph A. So now we are going to check the option B. Is there any jump discontinuity is present at x is equal to 0 or not? We are going to check. So g of x is equal to 1 by x square. The graph of 1 by x square is we are going to get in this fashion. Whether x is negative or positive, you are always going to get a positive because 1 by x square. So this is the graph you are going to get. If you take x is equal to 0 plus its value is plus infinity. If you go for x is equal to means 0 minus, at 0 plus and 0 minus we are going to get the same value plus infinity. So limit x extends to 0 plus is plus infinity and limit extends to 0 minus is again plus infinity. So both the limits are equal. So we can say that the right hand limit is equal to left hand limit means the limit is defined. Even the function is discontinuous, but there is no jump discontinuity. So therefore we can say that there is no jump discontinuity present at x is equal to 0 because the limit is going to get exist. If the limit is not exist, then only we can say jump discontinuity is present. So for this function we can say that yes, the function is discontinuous at x is equal to 0, but it doesn't have any jump discontinuity because if the limit is not going to exist means we can say that yes, the jump discontinuity is present, but here the limit is going to exist means yes, there is no jump discontinuity is present at x is equal to 0. So no jump discontinuous at x is equal to 0. So now same thing we have to go for the option C also. So now in the question, in the option C, they have given g of x is equal to sin x by x for x not equal to 0 and is equal to 0 for x is equal to 0. So now we have to check whether this function is discontinuity or jump discontinuity is present or not at x is equal to 0. We need to figure out. So first we have to find what is the right hand limit. The right hand limit is a limit extends to 0 plus means the function which is greater than 0 means whenever greater than 0 means it is equal to function sin x by x. Sin x by x. So we have to find what is this limit we have to find. Sin x by x, the rule is nothing but here if 0 by 0 sin means substitute here x is equal to 0. So sin 0 by 0 is 0 by 0 format. Go for the LH hospital rule. Sin x differentiation is cos x and x differentiation is 1. So you are going to get cos 0 is equal to 1. So therefore this is the value of the function. So therefore sin x by x value is equal to 1 you are going to get. The right hand limit is equal to plus 1. Now go for the left hand limit sin x by x. By using the same property still we are going to get the same one. So we can say that the right hand limit is equal to left hand limit means the function is defined means the limit is defined at the value of x is equal to 0. So therefore we can say that yes, there is no having of no jump discontinuity is not present at x is equal to 0. So if you want to draw the graph of sin x by x, we are going to get in this format with the decreasing value of the amplitude because the sine function is going to become 0 at x is equal to pi, 2 pi, 3 pi and 4 pi like that. So pi, 2 pi, 3 pi and minus pi, minus 2 pi, minus 3 pi. As the x value increases, the overall ratio value goes on decreases because the denominator part is going to get increased. So overall value will decrease. That's why decreasing amplitudes. So this is the value of the function sin x by x for x not equal to 0. But for x is equal to 0, they have given its value is equal to 0. So this is the value of 0 for this function. So you can see clearly at 0 plus and 0 minus, these both values are equal and the function is discontinuous, but there is no jump discontinuity because the limit is exist. So therefore we can say that from this graph, yes, there is a discontinuous function at x is equal to 0, but there is no discontinuity. So therefore we can say that see there is no discontinuity at x is equal to 0. So let me tell you again here, this function is a continuous at each and every point and limit is also going to define. But here the function is discontinuous, but the limit is defined. The limit is defined. So we can say if this function is a discontinuous function and the limit is defined at x is equal to a because the right hand limit is equal to left hand limit. But for this function, the right hand limit is not equal to left hand limit means the limit is not exist and there is also jump in the function. So therefore this is called as a jump discontinuous. So therefore jump discontinuous is present and it is also discontinuous function. So therefore this is a thing that you need to remember. Whenever the limit is not going to exist at any point, it means that yes, there is a jump discontinuous is going to get present at that point. So in all these options A, B and C, for each and every one there is no jump discontinuity is present at x is equal to 0, means there is no jump discontinuity at x is equal to 0. So option D is the correct solution of this question. So now we are going to solve the 67th question. See the question here. Two events A and B with probabilities 0.5 and 0.7 respectively have joint probability of 0.4. Then what is the probability that neither A nor B happens? In the question they have given that there are two events A and B. So the probability of occurrence of event A, which is 0.5, and the probability of occurrence of event B, which is 0.7, and also they are given that joint probability means the probability of occurrence of both the events at one time. That probability is equal to 0.4. So now based on this we have to find what is the probability of neither the occurrence of A or neither the occurrence of B. We need to figure out, means they are not going to occur, means both events are not going to occur. Then what is the probability of that? We need to figure out. So out of these four options, option A 0.2 is the correct solution of this question. So let's solve this numerical. So in the question they are given two events A and B. See, out of the sample space there are two events A and B, and in the question they are given the probability of occurrence of event A is 0.5 and the probability of occurrence of event B, which is 0.7, and also the probability of occurrence of both events A and B is 0.4. So based on this we have to find what is the probability of neither the occurrence of A or neither the occurrence of B. So you can see clearly, if you come across this one here in this place, is both the events A and B are not going to get occur. So therefore this is the space around which, in this space we can say that neither the event A or neither the event B is going to get occur. So this is the way that you need to figure out. This area you need to figure out. In this area, it is called as the probability of A union B, means either of anyone or both can occur. So therefore we can say this is the probability of A union B. And not occurrence means probability of A union B whole complement. The sum is equal to 1. So therefore probability of A union B complement is equal to 1 minus probability of A union B. So probability of A union B is equal to probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B. Probability of A, which is 0.5, the probability of B is 0.7, and the probability of A intersection B is 0.4. So if you solve this one, we are going to get finally 0.2. So therefore this is the probability of event A or B, means neither the occurrence of A or neither the occurrence of B, which is 0.2. So this is the overall probability, which is 0.2 is the correct solution of this question. So now we are going to solve the 60th question. See the question here. Person X can solve 80% of the ISRO question paper and person Y can solve 60% of the ISRO question paper. The probability that at least one of them will solve a problem from the question paper selected at random is. So they are given the probability of person X and person Y, 80% and 60%. Then what is the probability at least one? Means at least one. If they given a question paper, what is the probability of at least anyone which can solve that question paper? So therefore the probability that at least one of them will solve a problem from the question paper. So at least anyone should solve this question paper. So what is the probability we need to figure out? So what is these four options? Option D 0.92 is the correct solution of this question. So let's solve this numerical. Suppose S is a question paper. Suppose there are 100 questions. Out of this, X can only solve 80%, means only 80 questions, and Y can solve only 60%, means only 60 questions he can solve out of the overall question paper. Then what is the probability that any one of them are going to solve that question? We need to figure out. So the probability of X is 0.8, the probability of Y is 0.6. So therefore I am going to teach you the two methods, which is at least anyone should solve this question. Means either probability of X into Y complement is X is going to solve but not the Y, and here plus the probability of X complement into Y means X is not going to solve that question but Y is going to solve, means at least anyone is going to get solved, plus probability of both can also solve this one. See here, these two events are independent events because the probability of occurrence of event Y is independent of probability of occurrence of event X. So both are independent events. So whenever they are independent events, the probability of A intersection B is equal to probability of A into probability of B. When the occurrence of one event is not going to affect the other event, then we have to go for the product of this one. So therefore product of P of X into P of Y complement. P of X is 0.8 into P of 1 Y complement is 1 minus 0.6. We are going to get 0.4 plus probability of X complement is 1 minus 0.8. We are going to get 0.2 into the probability of Y is 0.6 plus probability of X into probability of Y, which is 0.8 into 0.6. So if you do the multiplication and if you do the addition, finally we are going to get 0.92. So therefore 92% of probability that question will be solved by at least any one of them. So therefore, or we can say that this is the probability of A union B, means if any question, means here if any question both can even solve this one. So therefore we can say we have to go for the probability of A union B, means this way number of questions can be solved by any one of them. So this way number of questions can be solved any one of them. So therefore probability of X union Y is equal to probability of X plus probability of Y minus probability of X intersection Y. So probability of X is 0.8, probability of Y is 0.6. I have already told you these two events are independent events. So probability of X intersection Y is equal to probability of X into probability of Y, which is 0.8 into 0.6. So if you solve this one, we are going to get finally 0.92. So therefore if you give any question, there is a chance of 92% that question is solved by at least any one of them. So therefore this is the correct solution of this question. So now we are going to solve the 69th question. See the question here. Consider the differential equation which is x square into d square y by dx square plus x into dy by dx plus x square minus 4 into y is equal to 0. The statement which is not true for this differential equation is. So they are given 4 options. Out of these 4 options, which is not the true solution of this differential equation, we need to figure out. So out of all the 4 options, option D, it is a non-homogeneous second order ordinary differential equation. So you can see clearly input is equal to 0. So we can say it is a homogeneous you can say it is a homogeneous second order ordinary differential equation. But in the question, in the option they are given, it is a non-homogeneous. So we can say option D is incorrect. But I will tell you the each and every A, B and C options in each and every detailed manner. Why A, B, C are correct and D is incorrect. Each and everything I will explain. So now we will check each and every option. In the option they are given that it is a linear second order differential equation. Yes, you can see clearly here the coefficients are, we can say the coefficients are only variable of x but not variable of y. So we can say this is a linear equation and it is also linear second order because that we can say the highest order the function is 2. So we can say that it is a second order linear ordinary differential equation. So we can say it is a second linear order differential equation because the coefficients are not the variable of y but they are only variable of x. So therefore we can say it is a second linear order differential equation. So option A is a true. So we can say this is a true statement. And option B, they are given that it cannot be reduced to a differential equation with constant coefficients. So we will see why. See, if any differential equation in the format of Euler-Cauchy differential equation or the legendary linear order differential equation, then only we can convert into non-constant coefficient differential equation into a constant coefficient differential equation. Listen carefully. Whenever the differential equation in the format of Euler-Cauchy differential equation or the Legender's linear differential equation, then only we can convert the non-constant coefficient differential equation into a constant coefficient differential equation. But you can see clearly it is not in either of these two formats. So we can say that we cannot convert this differential equation into a constant coefficient differential equation. So let me tell you about the Euler-Cauchy differential equation. Euler-Cauchy differential, the general format is this one. So this is called as the Euler-Cauchy differential equation. So you can see clearly here x to the power of n and the derivative. X to the power of n minus 1 means n minus 1 derivative. So here also x square same derivative. If x to the power of 2 is same derivative, x is dx. But here there should be a constant a0 into y, but here there is some value, we can say variable. It has to be only a numerical value, but there is a variable attached. So therefore this is not in the format of Euler. So we can say we cannot convert into a constant coefficient differential equation. Suppose if this is in this case, then how to do the conversion, which is we have to assume x is equal to e to the power of t. So then x into dy by dx is equal to theta into y, x square into d square y by dx square is equal to theta into theta minus 1 into y, and x cube into d cube y by dx cube is equal to theta into theta minus 1 into theta minus 2y. So where theta is called as a d by d theta. So wherever these values are there, just you have to replace, and if you do the simplification, we are going to get in this format. So this is called as the constant coefficient. So now this is not in the format of, this is not a constant coefficient differential equation, but this is a constant coefficient differential equation because this is in the format of Euler-Cauchy differential equation. So with these things with these assumptions and with these values, we can convert into a constant coefficient differential equation. And after solving this equation, finally you can keep t is equal to log x base e, then you can get the general solution. So we can convert a non-constant coefficient differential equation into a constant coefficient differential equation only when the differential equations are either in the Euler-Cauchy differential equation or the Legendre's differential equation. So the given equation is not in either of these two formats. This will be in the format of Euler only when this part is a constant value, but there is some variable of x square. So we can say this is not in the format of Euler. So we can say we cannot convert into constant coefficient differential equation. So therefore this is also statement, this two also is also true. So in the option C, they are given that x is equal to 0 is a regular singular point. So now we have to check whether this is true or not. See, basically, if any differential equation of the format of d square y by dx square plus p into dy by dx plus q into y is equal to 0. If any differential equation of this format, then x is equal to a is said to be regular singular point. It is called as a regular singular point only when limit x tends to a x minus a into p. If you substitute these values, it should not be equal to infinity. And similarly, limit x tends to a x minus a whole square into q, it is not equal to infinity. If these two conditions are satisfied, then only we can say x is equal to a is said to be a regular singular point. Means at that point we are going to get infinity. So therefore that solution means the function is not defined at that value. So now we have to check whether x is equal to 0 is a regular singular point of this graph or not. We need to check. Of this differential equation we need to check. So we have to convert this into in this format. So this value should be equal to 1. So divide by x square, we are going to get d square y by dx square plus 1 by x into dy by dx plus s square minus 4 by x square into y. So these two are in the same format. So p is equal to 1 by x and q is equal to x square minus 4 by x square. So now we have to check these two properties. So limit x tends to 0, x minus 0 into p is 1 by x. So x cancels, we are going to get 1. So this is not equal to infinity. And similarly, limit x tends to 0, x minus 0 whole square into where q is nothing but x square minus 4 by x square. So x square cancels, and if you substitute here x is equal to 0, 0 square minus 4 is minus 4. This is also not equal to infinity. So both the conditions are satisfied. So we can say x is equal to 0 is said to be a regular singular point. So x is equal to 0 is a regular singular point of this differential equation. So this is also true. So option C is also true. But in the option D, they have given that it is a non-homogeneous second order differential equation. Whenever the input is equal to 0, it will be a homogeneous. But in the question they are given, there is a non-homogeneous. So option D is incorrect or not true. But in the question they asked what is not true. So therefore option D is the correct solution of this question. So now we are going to solve the last question of this lecture. See the question here. Suppose the function is defined from 1, 2 at infinity is a continuous function such that f of 2 into f of 1 is less than 0. Is a sequence generated by bisection method as a result of approximating a 0 a naught of f of x. Then what is the modulus of a6 minus a naught less than or equal to, we need to figure out. So basically here we are going to find the root by using the bisection method. Then what is the difference between the sixth iteration root minus the exact root, we need to figure out. What is the difference, we need to figure out. So here out of the 4 options, option A is the correct solution of this question, which is 1 by 64. So let's solve this numerical. Suppose there is a function f of x like this manner. So for this function f of x, so let me take two values a and b. So for a, the value of the function is f of a, and for b, the value of the function is f of b. So f of a is positive and f of b is negative. So if the product of these two things, we are going to get negative value, means less than 0. So whenever the product of these two values is negative, means definitely the root is going to lie between these 2 points. So root is going to lie between these 2 points. Let me assume the root is equal to a naught. A naught is the exact root of this one. So now by applying the bisection method, the bisection method is we have to go for the midpoint of these two values, and still you have to find the same procedure, and you have to go for this way of solution. Means first you have to find the midpoint of these two values, and we have to check whether this is the exact root or not by substituting in the given equation. If it is equal to 0, means yes, it is an exact root. Otherwise you have to proceed until you are going to get the value value is equal to 0. So that is called as a bisection method. So here we are going to get some iterate values, means that is called as a iteration root. So here in a bisection method, after n iterations, the difference between the exact root and the nth iteration root is at most is equal to 1 by 2 to the power of n. So in a bisection method, the difference between the nth iteration root and the exact root, the difference is at most is equal to 1 by 2 to the power of n. So this is an important formula in the bisection method. Means in a bisection method, the difference between the nth iteration root and the exact root is at most equal to 1 by 2 to the power of n. Means its value is always less than or equal to 1 by 2 to the power of n. In a maximum difference is 1 by 2 to the power of n. In the question they have asked us what is the value of the modulus of the a6 minus a0, where a0 is the exact root, where a6 is the nth iteration root. So therefore less than or equal to 1 by 2 to the power of n, where n is equal to 6 iterations. So here they have did for 6 iterations. So 2 to the power of 6. So 1 by 2 to the power of 6 is 1 by 64. So this is a correct solution of this question, where an is called as the nth iteration root and a0 is called as the exact root. So let me tell you some more important data, which is order of the bisection method is 1, and order of the regular falsy method is 1, and the order of the secant method is 1.62, and the order of the Newton-Raphson method is 2. So these are the very important points. This may be asked in the coming AE examinations. See, as the order increases, as the order of the method increases, the time to get the solution, means the iterations are going to get decrease. So we are going to get the solution in a very easier manner. See, as the order of the method increases, we are going to get the solution in a very less amount of time. This means less number of iterations. So you are going to get the solution in a very easier, or you can say in a very fast manner you are going to get the solution. So out of all these methods, the Newton-Raphson method has the highest degree or highest order. So it is going to give you the solution in a very fast manner. So this is somewhat extra points of this each and every method. So these are the different methods we can get so these are some of the numerical methods. By this we are going to get the approximate result. So by this lecture, we have successfully completed the 70 questions in a very detailed manner. And if you like the content of our channel, then please do like, share and subscribe our YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon button. So whenever you upload new video, the direct notification comes on the bell. If any improvements in our lectures, then please do comment in the comment section. We will definitely give all those improvements in the coming lectures. Please do watch all our videos in the YouTube itself, so that our channel will grow and it will reach to the more number of students. Thank you so much for watching this lecture. Keep smiling, take care, and bye-bye.